What the fuck?
The Dark Knight Trilogy
Okay, now this one's
truly
really quiet. What the fuck? Okay.
stands alongside some of the greatest film trilogies ever made.
And to get straight to the point, Batman Begins is the fifth Batman movie, but the first one to get it
alright,
right,
chat?
to get it
Am I
absolutely
video louder than
right.
you?
Every other point that you made, I think, is utterly ridiculous. This movie was an A movie.
And made box office
Every
history.
film is a labor of love for Nolan and his production team,
You're
who
good?
fully
Okay.
commit to a standard of quality
This video is
that
about
very
Dark Knight
few
Trilogy, I
comic book
guess.
films have reached.
I'm smarter.
I'm better.
I'm better. I am better.
However, as with most films, the creation of this film series required patience, rejected ideas, and a bit of creativity. From the
Shots forward.
Batmobile's many designs to the Joker's terrifying
I've
look,
seen that.
let's take a look at the many elements that were cut from the Dark Knight trilogy.
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector,
Cut.
a dark knight.
Here's what's also happening in Hollywood today. Batman and Robin rule. The latest adventure in the series pulled in a reported $43 million this weekend.
Oh
Oh
my
boy,
God.
was I shocked by the new Batman movie. It's so overproduced. Every scene is so action-filled. The movie does all of the thinking and emoting for us.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
When Batman and
dig
Robin
car.
tanked at the box office, Warner Brothers was desperate for a new and fresh take on the character.
We're done when I say we're done.
Many directors came in to pitch their ideas for a Batman film, but it was Christopher Nolan who really caught their attention. Nolan envisioned a version of the character that existed in a grounded world, and this can be seen in the concept art. The fantastical envisioning of Gotham City is now gone, replaced by a dirty and grunge-filled city concealed by smog.
Nomex survival suit for advanced infantry.
Oh, hell yeah, it's got that suits. Fuck yeah.
Joints. Terror resistant. This sucker will stop a knife.
Even in this gothic city,
Oh.
Batman stands out.
That cow is
His
sick.
batsuit doesn't stray too far from the final look.
The ears need to be a little
But
bit
you
longer,
will
but
notice
it's so cool.
small alterations. The ears on his cowl are thinner and smaller.
They need to be a little bit
The mouth
bigger.
opening
That looks
is
good.
wider, showing off more of
No,
his
that
jaw.
actually looks
And the
really
bat
good.
symbol has a slightly different design.
That looks so good.
While many of the concepts don't stray too far from the final look, this concept does make a few minor changes.
That looks so good too.
The bat symbol has a drastically different look, harkening back to how it appeared in the
Oh my
Schumacher films.
God.
The belt and the pattern
Oh, it's
on
a
the
change color lights to
torso
red.
also look much different. These early concept illustrations by Mark Simpson
What the fuck?
embrace the grounded aesthetic Nolan
Oh,
envisioned.
hell no.
Batman
Alexa,
in the illustrations
change color lights to red.
appears to be wearing a traditional cloth-based suit instead of body armor. His cowl also seems to be made of fabric, and his grapple hook appears to be more handheld and practical.
That's kind of cool.
Batman in these illustrations leans much more into a grounded take on the character. He's more low-tech and put together
Alright,
when
that's kinda
compared to
cool.
the more militaristic version in the film.
So what do you
Come
think?
in black.
Does it come in black?
I felt that it was very important to design the Batmobile first before we approached any of the other aspects of
That's a real,
design
like,
of the
that's
film,
real. You
because
can
I had a
drive
very
that, by the
specific
way.
idea
That's
in my
fucking,
head about
like, that's fully
a
functional.
contemporary approach to a Batmobile, and our approach to it would tell everybody who saw it a lot about what we're doing in the whole film, which is a more grounded reality in which we're trying to base
See,
the story.
it's like a
When
fucking fully
crafting his
functional
version of Batman, the Batmobile was one of the first things Nolan wanted to get right, as it would help inform every other grounded element in the film. Nolan had an interesting idea for how his Batmobile would look.
Like a
He
fucking
wanted
tank.
it to be tanky,
See?
durable, and heavy duty,
You ever play
but
this?
also
I'll look
sleek,
at it in a minute.
agile, and fast.
I'll watch
With this in mind, Nolan made this clay model of the look he was going for, an
kinda cool.
almost futuristic vehicle that looked both highly durable, fast, and agile. With help from production designer Nathan Crowley, Nolan would turn this mold into a
Alexa,
series
light
of
color
miniature
orange.
models, all with varying differences in their designs.
Alexa, light color red.
This model was the most
That
rigid.
is ass.
It looks stiff and doesn't appear like it's very
That is
maneuverable.
fucking ass.
A large circular window
Alexa,
seems
light
to be
color
at the
red.
center of the vehicle, which makes the design stick out. This Batmobile
That's
looks much
cool.
closer to the final look. It keeps the same overall shape and appears a lot more maneuverable than the
I like that
previous
one.
design. The one major difference, however, is the shape and
I like
size
that
of the
one a lot.
window,
That's really
which
cool.
is significantly larger and more apparent when compared to the tiny windows of the
I
original
like
design.
that one. The big ass windows, that's sick.
Batman Begins was planned as a one-off film, as Nolan never originally intended to make a continuation. However, after the release of The Prestige, Nolan became interested in how a sequel would work, especially how the Joker would operate within this grounded
Greatest
world.
superhero movies of all time.
When Heath Ledger's Joker design was first revealed, it took many fans by surprise.
Alquin.
The design was unlike anything they'd seen at the time. Joker was dressed in filthy clothes, had messy hair, and his white skin was now makeup. Nolan envisioned Joker as a purposeless anarchist, a man without motive or desires for material gain. He's a man with no backstory and no hint of his history. It's as if he was born from chaos itself. This design may be iconic, but it took a long time to get to this final look. Nolan and the production team wanted the Joker to look dirty and unkempt. They looked at illustrations by Francis Bacon as inspiration to formulate their own creepy and unsettling designs. These
Shout out,
concepts perfectly embody a Joker's horror factor. There's something unsettling about the way he appears.
That's fucking
Whether
crazy.
it's his blackened eyes, scars across his face, or the unnaturally large grin carved into his mouth. The Joker here is also devoid of his white makeup, giving you a glimpse into the man underneath, something we only saw briefly in the
Literally
final
no
film.
one
Joker clearly has some kind of dark past, one that led to his face becoming deformed
So,
in
I
such
wanted
a
to talk about
horrific
the theory.
way. But we'll never learn about that past, because the ambiguity of his
I wanna talk about the
backstory
theory.
is what makes him so interesting. This design must have been
He's not. So there's a theory that Christopher Nolan said he liked that I can't remember I'm kind of paraphrasing, so I don't remember the exact story, but it's something like Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker was like a soldier who served in Afghanistan and came back home and got like disfigured or some shit and like killed his wife or something, and she was upset because he wasn't smiling or some bullshit.
popular, as you can see it in
There's a
several
theory, but I
other
can't remember the
pieces of
exact
concept art. The only difference being that the Joker's scars have either been toned down or hidden underneath the white makeup. Some concepts don't even give Joker his makeup to begin with. It seems like the artist considered omitting Joker's iconic face paint
Which is
entirely,
crazy.
with only the purple suit and green hair present. The artists also played around with other designs for the Joker. These ones drift away from the creepy appearance
That gives
and go
more
for a
like
much
Joker
more
2019
fun
type
and
shit.
goofy look. The Joker here looks like a traditional clown, especially when you see his big red nose.
Yeah.
This concept
That is
also plays
ass.
around with the goofy appearance. He's wearing a shirt that says laugh all over it, an element that's supposed to make him look more interesting. This concept for the Joker is actually pretty accurate to his final look, the only real difference being the scarf, which makes him appear more stylish.
Stylish.
Don't forget the guy who played the job.
He thinks he can sit it out and still take a slice. I know why they call him the Joker.
The Joker's henchmen are known for their clown masks that have varying unique designs, shapes, and colors.
Yeah, this scene was sick as fuck, where they'd sit down like pick one, like he'd had it set up to where one would
During-
kill the other, blah blah blah. The smaller cuts, eventually they
In
fucking.
the development of The Dark
Like,
Knight,
that was such a cool
these
scene.
masks went through a plethora of designs,
That's
each
ass.
reflecting different tones.
That's ass.
While many of
That's
them
cool.
take on a fun and playful look with their bright colors and interesting shapes.
Really cool.
Others take a much darker approach to their looks. Joker's henchmen look sinister, like characters you'd see from the Purge movies. Whatever dark personas these men have are hidden underneath these vibrant masks. Although they look friendly, there's clearly a hidden darkness about them. They come across as more playful demons that find delight in pain and suffering. The eeriness and uncertainty of these henchmen help evoke their fear factor, adding even more to the Joker's playful yet terrifying presence. This poster showcases the Batman copycat hung from a street lamp. This image appears creepy and unsettling.
That's really cool.
The imposter Batman's suit appears torn and almost appears like a phantom hanging in a desolate city. The imposter Batman's death was included in the final film, and although it took the audience by surprise, this concept is 10 times more ominous. It makes me believe that The Dark Knight was originally envisioned as a much darker film, but was toned down to fit the PG-13 rating.
And the Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to... The Dark Knight, Richard King.
With the massive financial and critical success of The Dark Knight, everybody expected Nolan to work on a sequel. However, Nolan was afraid to make another film because generally, third films in a trilogy were often the worst ones. However, Nolan felt obligated to complete his trilogy and thus began work on The Dark Knight Rises, with Bane as the main antagonist.
Speak of the devil, that it shall appear.
When designing Bane's mask, Nolan and costume designer Lindy Hemming did not want to use Bane's wrestling mask because they felt it wouldn't work within this grounded world. As a result, they experimented with many ways.
So, I'm sorry. Some fucking random guy dressed like a clown who's crazy works in this world, but a dude dressed in a fucking luchador mask. Nah. They could have made that work if they wanted to, they just didn't want
to ground him in reality.
Fuckery.
When designing Bane's mask, Lindy Hemming took inspiration from real-life animals like spiders and gorillas. The purpose was to make Bane appear animalistic and raw, but also practical by making his mask appear more put together and industrial. Many of the concepts give Bane a mask that conceals his face. In these two concepts, you'll notice that Bane's face seems to be covered in some kind of black mask, with tubes laid on top.
That is terrible.
This design
looks
a lot more busy than what we see in the final film. The same can be said for this concept, which once again gives Bane the black mask.
Oh my god, that is
However,
terrible.
This time, there are several tubes that seem to inject into his skin. However, once again, this mask may have been too bulky and over-designed to be considered. Many other ideas appear to be embracing a mask that conceals Bane's entire face, and all of them feature interesting approaches to the look.
That's kind of cool.
You'll notice that many of them play around with the amount of tubes on the mask and the way in which they are structured. Some are more straightforward and basic, as they are easy to follow, while others snake and bend in various interesting and tangled shapes. These concepts really took the industrial steampunk look to a whole new level of complexity, and believe me when I tell you that some of these concepts really embrace the convoluted mess of tubes and metal. Some artists experimented with more fantastical designs. Take a look at this concept illustration. Bane here has a mask that conceals his whole face, like in the other concepts, but this time he's been given a giant metallic arm. Bane here looks like he's some kind of Roman gladiator or a character you'd see in a Mad Max film. Later mask designs look much closer to the final film. Bane's mask no longer conceals his entire face, but only a small portion of his upper section. The only real differences are some small design additions and slight alterations
Stop
to
being
the
a fucking
tubes
view
on his
count,
mouth.
Andy.
All these designs eventually
An
led
hour
up
and
to
40.
this,
Yeah, I had to
which
restart
ended up
stream.
becoming the mask that was used in the final film. But you can still notice slight differences,
Stop being a view
especially
count,
when it
Andy.
comes to the
My bad,
placement
you know,
of the
4.5.
dupes.
Stop being a view count,
However,
Andy.
despite already deciding on the look, according to this mold, the production team experimented with
That's
an alternate design for
That is
Bane.
ass.
This mask doesn't look radically different from the final version,
Actually, that's not that bad.
but there are a few design alterations. The look of Bane in The Dark Knight Rises has become iconic among the DC fanbase, but judging by the numerous concept sketches, it took a long time to come up with the final design. When designing Catwoman, Nolan wanted to stay true to her comic look, but also ground her in reality. As a result, Catwoman wears a black bodysuit with only hints of a cat motif, like her goggles that form cat ears. Many of the concepts consist of different designs for Catwoman's mask and goggles. There were many other concepts for Catwoman, but they never strayed too far from what we ended up getting. The same can be said for her black suit, which looks pretty similar to the final version. However, not all the concepts closely resemble the final look. These two concept illustrations are a lot more creative with Catwoman's appearance. The suit is no longer pure black. There are multiple patterns that visually help it stand out. There were other alternate concepts for the film, mostly showcasing different set designs and approaches to scenes. It's sad that many of these concepts couldn't make it into the final film, but it's always nice to look back at the unused ideas and see the many directions this film could have went.
That was cool. I liked that. Oh, James Cameron Spider-Man? That's always been an interesting one, but we're not gonna watch that right now, I don't think. I've seen that like a million times. Not that video for like itself, but like I've seen shit about that fucking movie a million times. Okay, we could watch, that's like a 3-hour fucking video. Let's just watch some more